Hello, everybody. Welcome back to your regularly scheduled Rewinds Rewind episode. We're here, I was gonna say only covering one boot this episode, but really, I guess it's technically two. Um, Maybe one and a half if we want to count it. But yes, as always, I am your lovely host, Jackson. I'm joined by four other people today, one of which is another extra special guest that we have appearing not once but twice as a gay cowboy. It is Hickstar, everybody. Woo!
Hey, thank you. Thank you. Hold the applause. Thank you. Your favorite Steven slash Amanda slash Anna is here.
It's
And I'm
true, yeah.
so excited to be here.
Period.
Lest we forget
Woo.
one of the winners of the traders that we just did as well. Just iconic all
Amazing season. Went
yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Don't me.
Wait, about as
Oh
perfect
yeah.
as it could have, absolutely.
About
Well,
that.
for some people.
Speaking of
Well, it was fun for me.
someone else that maybe it didn't go as perfectly for, we have Graham, everybody.
Oh, lovely intro. Yeah. Hey gang, it's Graham. Stream 911 on Hulu and watch out for the start date Thursday, September 26th. Season 8 starting. So we're really diving into it with the B NATO. So I'm really excited.
You'd think that this was a sponsored program or something.
We'll get there
They
one
should give
day,
us
okay?
money.
Graham has a vision board and he knows how to use it.
I have dreams. They will not be crushed again.
It's true. Someone that I think the traders possibly went even worse for is also here. We have Sydney, everybody.
Wow. I mean, I made it to the end.
That's
I
true.
mean, Sydney technically beat me placement wise.
Technically, I
Not
did.
And
technically. Sydney did beat me placement wise.
and
That's
delusion
right.
wise, I would say.
Well, yes.
Well,
Well, yes. Anyway, I'm
well.
Sydney, one of two women on this podcast, and excited to start.
Aye, aye, Captain.
Period. All right. I am the other woman on this podcast and I didn't play the traders, so Jackson can't drag me in it. I was, however, one half of the active spec lounge. So
As you should. Because we
You
took
were the best spectator.
Yeah, because we
me and
took
Jack are holding that shit
21
down.
of our spec lounge members in the game. So that's great. But yes, we're here to recap another cycle of Big Brother Rewinds 17. At the end of the last episode, we had not one but two evictions as both Jeff and Jason met their untimely demises at the hands of the Glorb Lords, pretty much again. That's kind of what everyone has been doing recently. But yes, we're going in. Jeff and Jason both join the little jury sequester that we have going on because much like last season, there is a battle back for the first four members of the jury. So they're not quite out of the game just yet. So they're in their little sequester limbo for the time being. But we got to crown a new HOH and we got to get a couple more people into that sequester before either of them will have a chance to get back in. We go into cycle 8 of the game, and it is themed around. I don't remember. What was it themed around?
I don't know either.
Wait, wasn't it mine? It's literally mine. Yes, it was
Oh,
Sondheim week, everybody. Um,
I'm dead. Okay, this is not our fault. We've had so many weeks get moved around and changed and dropped. So
yeah, there's a lot going on. Listen, we're doing our best.
Yeah,
But yeah,
due to the twins getting evicted before they came in, and also spoiler alert, a quit that and a walk that ended up happening this week. We've had to switch basically our entire schedule around. So I don't know
I'll just
where
not really a spoiler because it happened
I don't know where
literally
we
like
are.
it happens
right
pretty
when
we just
quickly.
have a generalized hosting trauma. We've just blacked out half the
yeah,
week,
I
so it's
literally
fine.
just everyone listeners know I threw maybe 7 tantrums because I was like my prompts are not getting cut. I made them already, and everyone was really nice to me and let me keep them. So I think yes, guys, things.
But yes, this cycle is my own doing, of course, themed around anything and everything that is Stephen Sondheim because he's my fave. He's great. I mean, he has a bunch of different musicals that are amazing. And I don't think a season of any social strategy competition whatever is complete without some rendition of touchy subjects because I think it's always funny and I think it always like stirs shit up with people.
Absolutely.
So I went ahead and I placed a touchy subjects competition into this cycle as the HOH competition. I themed it around Sunday in the Park with George, which is one of, if not my favorite, Sondheim musical. And it's fun. It's like all your typical questions, like without the like fancy like words and all that. It's always like who's playing the best game, like who's such a villain, who sucks, and just stuff like that. And we themed it all around different like art lingo and like different stuff like that. So it was like who's not the brightest crayon in the box, or who's as like funny as a comic strip, or is like as sculpted as a statue and stuff like that.
My
Uh,
personal favorite, as messy as a finger painting.
oh, that one was so good. I
I like
loved
that.
that one. Yeah. And so we kind of do touchy subjects a little differently in rewinds. I think a lot of people just kind of have people like either make two lists and like the first one is what you think and the second one is what other people think, or it's straight up just like one list and it's basically like majority rules kind of. But I think that's kind of boring, and I also like making the little gifs and stuff of all the house guests. So we always do it where we ask the questions. There's 12 questions this time around. They answer based on who's left in the game. Then after we compile all of those, then I like to send them back the questions with all the people that were answered for it. That way people can be like, oh my God, people think this of me, like while they're doing the competition and everything. And
Let them spiral early. Yeah.
exactly,
Give them more
exactly.
time with their thoughts.
Yeah. And then they answer based on the second round of questions for their given option. So it's kind of multiple choice in this way. So I like it. Um, and I gotta say, I think in recent memory, this is kind of one of like overall the worst performing casts and touchy subjects that we've seen. We
Wow.
It's so crazy considering our cast is like a majority of social players. Like all of
yeah.
like the
Also, most of
we-
them are in alliance together. Like,
yeah, that's
don't piss me off.
it was crazy. I
Like
couldn't tell if they were intentionally trying to throw or if they were just that bad.
I don't I know if people were intentionally throwing, not a lot of them were like openly vocal about it. So I'm sure there's always at least a few people this season throwing competitions and stuff for their own reasons. But I feel like usually, especially when we have 12 questions, usually like a winning score is like kind of like at least in the double digits, or even like last season, Cody fully got like a perfect score in touchy subjects and everything. Um, and the winning score for this one was a 7 out of 12. Um, with most other
Just
people
barely above half.
yeah, with
Yeah, it's
Barely
everyone
barely.
above
else
failing.
everyone else falling between like 3 out of 12 or 5 out of 12. Um, so yeah. And then
There
I
was
mean,
at least one where it was only between two different choices, right? So it was a 50-50 chance
yeah,
of getting it correct.
it
Like,
was one of like who's the funniest, and it was between just Jason Daybon. And let me see, and people still like got it wrong. Like
amazing.
yeah, so it's just I don't know. And also the thing was, so okay, well, first of all, before the competition even ends, Becky quits. So, so there's that. But she has a lot going on personally,
I was
and
gonna say I can't drag her. Her fucking ceiling's falling in, but
yeah,
still.
we
Yeah.
respect it. And if it wasn't an actual like situation and she was just like fucking off and quitting, we wouldn't have let her be on the jury. And we still let her be on the jury because life happens and it's hard. And Becky was genuinely lovely for time that she was here. She never quite got her footing, and as soon as she did, her closest allies and the twins got evicted right next to her, and then she almost got um Hinky voted out in a double eviction against Jason. So like times were not great for Becky in Big Brother Rewind 7, but she always managed to be somewhat of a positive presence and tried to stay on the bright side of things. So we love you, Becky, and we're sorry to
Yeah,
see you go.
we love Becky. And Becky is
Wishing you the best.
yeah, she is serving on the jury.
She's serving.
She's serving, but also on the jury.
Absolutely.
And like I said, that's a decision we made as a hosting team just because of circumstances. Since she did walk, she will not be eligible to compete in the battle back next week. But she is serving and slaying and serving and slaying, and not a soul can clock.
She is jury mother.
Yeah.
I mean, technically she is. She's the first person to hit the jury chat. So
That's mother.
great.
That's mom.
Yeah.
I will so we keep for all intents and purposes, just because of the nature of the competition, we keep Becky in it for like the remainder of the competition. Just to answer, and then she formally is whisked away from the game after the competition ends. But I kind of wanted to just do a little bit of a rundown of the questions because I thought it was kind of funny. But we had who's like, or yeah, so in the second part, the first question was who's as messy as a finger painting, like Alex said. And naturally the answer is Audrey. Because she is. I think
Mom.
her and Jace would probably be, maybe Meg after some of her antics, but her and Jace would definitely have been the answer that came to mind for me. There was another
I feel
one.
like that question can also be just called host fave. Like,
True. Yeah. Yeah.
it keeps us entertained.
I'm still
Oh,
waiting for
Audrey.
Audrey to win a competition because she's the last one in the game who hasn't. And if she wins, then 14 of the 16 people on this cast will have won at least one competition. And I really want that to happen. So literally just the first two boots, and then everyone else won a comp. The second question was who's painting like a masterpiece of a game? And the majority was Davon for this one. But Jackie was, in the second part, Jackie was the only person to answer Davon, and everyone else answered someone else. People answered Jackie, people answered Audrey, Jace, but it was Davon, and Jackie was the only one to get that right.
I mean,
popular
good for Day in terms of the perception not being that, even though that was the answer. You know, she needs. I'm a little nervous, but we vibe.
Yeah. We have one that was like most popular with patrons, so kind of like the who's gonna win America's favorite player question, pretty much. And Jace was the vast majority for this one, and 5 of the 7 people answered that as well, so that makes sense. Which was probably Jace would be up there for me. It would have to be someone in the Glorbs probably, but Jace has been entertaining. We had who has 0 perspective on the game, like they have no idea what's going on. And the majority, I kind of thought it would be either Shelly or Becky for this one, but the majority said James. Which I mean,
does speak to the fact that his persona of I'm so stupid, aw shucks, like it really has worked.
I know, yeah. And like
Because no one
obviously
knows.
He was thrilled in his DR. He
I
was
know,
like,
no, it
yeah.
reminded me of in Big Brother Canada after they have kind of a similar competition to this, and they say that Paris is like the stupidest person in the house, and she runs into the storage room and she's like, "They think I'm dumb. They think I'm dumb." It was very that. So that was funny and good for James because that has been something he's been like actively doing. So
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
and then also with, oh, I'll get into that in a later episode, but then he's been doing his goodbye messages as the jury members start to go in, and he's explaining his game very well, and he's winning a lot of people over. So good for James. We have who is as iconic as an Andy Warhol painting. The majority was either Jace or Jackie for this one. It was a tie. I believe they both got 3 votes for these. And Becky, whose score didn't even count because she quit after she submitted, was the only person to answer Jace. So everyone else said either Day or Meg. Yeah, everyone else said either Day or Meg. So good for you, Becky. We have who's as fake as a counterfeit. And naturally, that also goes to Audrey. So, because she just,
Which is honestly kind of funny.
yeah.
That's kind of funny to me. Like, I feel like it's like, okay, I understand where it comes from because she lies a lot and everyone kind of like has caught her in all of her lies, but like also she's extremely transparent, mostly about like she's been pretty honest about like I don't like Meg, I'm going to target Meg. Like There's faker bitches in this house.
And
that's
of course,
what I
she
can
answered
do.
Meg for that one too. So it was,
See, she's
yeah.
transparent.
Yeah. The next one was the one we talked about that was split between Day and Jace, the Who's as Funny as a Comic Strip. Davon was the only one to answer herself, and everyone else answered Jace, and Jace was the majority. So that's funny.
That's rough.
That hurts. Yeah, that's painful.
Yeah,
We've all been there.
we had who's a blank canvas in the game. They haven't done anything. And the overwhelming majority was Shelly for this one. I probably would have. Well, no, yeah, I think that's correct. I
Yeah,
think it
that
would have been between Becky and Shelly.
Yes.
I think, albeit she hasn't done much successfully, but Becky has done more than Shelly has. So.
Yes.
To be fair, Shelly has gotten herself pulled off the block by other people how many times? Like,
That's true.
No,
gotta get back to her
it's
social game.
true.
Twice
Like,
with
you
the
really
veto,
do.
and I would wager to say Jason pulled her off the block with that battle of the block as well. So,
Oh yeah.
And you know what? It's not that she doesn't have social game. It's just that Shelly just lacks like agency. I think that honestly
Yeah.
shows it more than anything. Like she lacks the ability to win comps and save herself. She lacks the ability to like I mean there's been some social moves she made to try to stay, but like for the most part when Shelly's on the block and she stays because other people wanted to get out other people, not because they're like, oh, we want to keep Shelly. Or because Shelly was like the leading savior of her own game. So
and I do think
Are we going to talk about identities in here at all, by the way, or not? Not like once
I don't
people
think
have
until the next one probably.
Okay, work. I was curious.
And I will say Shelly has two very powerful people like firmly in her corner with James and Jackie, who are genuinely like more invested in her than they are like some of the members of the Glorbs. So that's very good for her, and that can't be understated. And that's a lot of the reason why she has stayed around so long while the like Jeffs and Jasons and
I
twins.
mean, Davon also literally pulled her off the block with a veto win. You know
Yep.
what I mean? So it's like
Mhm.
she has a lot of those people in that alliance attempting to use her as like another piece for their game. But I think this just kind of further shows it though that like that's all that it is for them. Like to the point where even though all of those people want to actively use her in their game as like a little like a piece on the board, she's still viewed as a complete blank slate of like hasn't done anything, how like isn't, and then she goes home this week, right? So it just kind of shows kind of where she's at.
Oh, I definitely see why she was the answer for the house. It was more just me kind of being like, to be fair, she hasn't done nothing. Like I just kind of do want to like recognize, especially because a lot of times the social game isn't as recognized, than like the strategic or the physical.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
I just got to defend my social fams.
Yeah. Oh, naturally, of course. The next question was whose game is as confusing as modern art? And the answer for that one was indeed Miss Becky. I'm not even quite sure Becky knows what her game is, or what it was, I guess. She's dead now. So, and Meg was the only one to get that one right. So everyone else either said Day or Meg herself or Audrey.
Which Day?
Or Shelly.
Day of all people.
That was
Davon
Audrey.
is crazy.
That was Audrey that said that, and she didn't even manage to do the challenge correctly in any way whatsoever, so it didn't matter. So
iconic.
Did she mess up her stopwatch again?
No, she went through. She did the start and stop, but she went through and just did all of the gifts without answering, and then answered them all at the end on a list and disqualified herself. So
Queen.
Just another day of Audrey DQing from a competition. We have the who's not the brightest crayon in the box question. The answer was Shelly for this one as well. And again, only one person got this one correct. Audrey was the only person to get this one correct. Other people answered Jace, James, Liz, and Meg. So I don't know what these people are doing. And not a lot of them. there were some of them that were pretty split, if it was like 3-2-2 or something like that, but not a lot of them were like super split. So I'm not sure why, even given multiple choice, these people are struggling so much with this, but whatever, we move, we vibe. Um, the next one was who's as sculpted as a statue in competition, so kind of like who's the comp beast. And given that Jason's dead now, I think the correct answer being Meg was pretty correct, I would say. She'd won 2 HOHs and like a sweep or something at this point, so I think it's fitting. And the last question was, who is a modern day Da Vinci? Just a sheer genius. So basically, who's like the player of the season? Who's playing the best? And Davon was the answer for this one, and Meg was the only one to get this one right. So if I go back and count, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 12 questions in which only one person got them right across all of the 8 people participating in this competition. And that one person to get it right was Meg. People answered Audrey, people answered Liz, people answered Jace, and people answered
Who answered Audrey for the masterpiece of a game?
the
Who
one that got answered as confusing as modern art. Miss Becky answered Audrey. So
Oh my God.
There you go.
yeah.
But you know what? I will say that I'm glad that no one tried to game the comp. Like no one, there wasn't like a concerted effort to be like, which I know we don't allow that anymore. But like, I appreciate that they didn't even try. Like they were just willing to fail of their own merits, and I respect that.
Yes.
And fail they did.
So Audrey obviously comes in last with a disqualification, per usual. James is next with 3 out of 12 correct. Both Becky and Meg both get 4 out
I
of
do
12.
I do think James was throwing though. I do think James said he was throwing, but that turns back to bite him in the ass. And he was like, well, I can't believe I'm going up. And it was like, well, you threw the HOH, so
Yeah, Becky and
sorry.
Meg had 4 of 12, and then Day, Jackie, and Shelly all got 5 of 12. And then Liz on top ends up winning the competition with a score of 7 of 12. After she answered, if she would have just stuck with what she said in the original, she would have gotten 10 out of 12. So I'm not sure why she changed, but you know what? She still won. So
Sometimes the other choices look more appealing. I don't know.
I guess so, yeah. So yeah, Liz has now won her second HOH competition, following her one where she reluctantly sent Johnny Mac home in the pre-jury after wanting to get Shelly out. And here we are. Liz is back on top, and um, given her positioning kind of within the Glorbs Alliance, all of them are pretty off the block, especially because she doesn't really want to send anyone from the Alliance into the battle back and have them win and come back to be like, "You betrayed me. Why'd you do that?" So that basically just leaves Audrey and James and Shelly as people she can nominate. And she likes Audrey a lot. She's probably, other than Jace, obviously, just because Jace and Audrey are like the ride or die, like messy duo or whatever. Liz would probably be the next person who's highest on Audrey in that grouping. So she pretty easily lands on Shelly and James for her nominations. She's already nominated Shelly once and then renominated James that same time. So it's no new blood being spilled. So Liz is gonna go with that. She also is a bit curious about all the hinky votes that were thrown at Becky's way because she was quite a fan of Miss Becky before her untimely demise. And people like kind of care about it, but then kind of don't. And they kind of, I think Jace and Meg kind of tried and suss out like what was happening. But as they go and talk about it in the Glorbs, they're like, who cares? Jason, they're both gone now. So like But Jackie does go to her DR and like immediately was like clocks exactly who it was. She was like, oh well, Audrey always throws hinky votes, and Day didn't seem super. I mean, Day saved Jason once, so why would she not at least throw a hinky vote again? And James openly like said to Jackie that he wanted Becky to go, and that's why he used the veto and everything. So she's like, "Oh, it was probably those three," but again, like I don't really care. So, it kind of came and went with Becky, all the speculation over all the hinky votes and everything. Um, but with this, Audrey sniffs out that she is safe under a Liz HOH, at least for the time being, and in true Audrey fashion, decides to go on like a paranoid fueled like rampage across the house. And she has decided that she wants to pin the three hinky votes onto Shelly and or let me look up exactly who it was. It was Day, James, and Shelly. With a little bit of Liz in there too, depending on who she's talking to. And uh it gets to the point where Audrey like is saying so much to people so consistently that she herself forgets that she was one of the hinky votes for Becky.
That's so real though. I literally did that in season 13. Like I was talking to
Been
Angie
there,
about
girl.
something and I was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe that Kesar and, Joshua did that." She was like, "You were one of the fucking votes." I was like, "Oh right. Okay, I forgot about that."
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah. Audrey was like, I think at one point she was like, doing all this talking about the hinky votes. I actually am starting to wonder who they were. And then she's like, wait, I was literally one of them. Like, what am I talking about? So that's pretty indicative of Audrey as a whole, I think. But unfortunately, all of this vote pinning pretty easily gets back to the Glorbs, and they're not very pleased about it, especially Jace. Jace is starting to think that Audrey is a bit too messy and a bit too paranoid for her own good, and starts talking with the Glorbs about possibly targeting Audrey.
Which is saying something for Jace to be
Yeah,
Jace to be like, oh my God, she's really kind of losing it.
yeah,
Jace
for
of
sure.
all people. Yikes.
But also, if I were Jace, I would keep Audrey around for as long as possible.
As long as possible. Yeah, he has no incentive to get rid of Audrey
Yeah, and
whatsoever.
I don't think, I mean, he does say some stuff in his diary room about how it's kind of annoying and she's too messy and stuff like that. But I think if it comes down to it, I think Jace, because Jace has talked in the past about like working with Audrey to like flip on the Glorbs and plus and stuff like that. So I think if it really comes down to it, Jace would choose Audrey over a lot of those people. Maybe not like Meg, because Meg kind of is his closest person right now, but Audrey is a very, very important piece for Jace's game, I feel. Um, and yeah, Liz does go ahead and nominate James and Shelley for eviction, as everyone was basically told and everyone kind of assumed what was going to happen. And for the veto draw, all three people that are eligible to get house guest choice are drawn for house guest choice. Um, James gets house guest choice and picks Audrey to play in the competition. Um, Davon is picked by Liz via house guest choice. And then Jackie is picked by Shelly with house guest choice. So that leaves Jace and Meg as the only two people not playing in veto this week. And we go in, well, as soon as Audrey is picked, she goes to her diary room and she says that she's gonna win veto and she's gonna use veto on James to try and get Davon or Jace as the replacement nominee.
That's
Um,
right. That's right. She said that.
so and I don't
What's wrong with that?
know. Sydney, that
What's
was
wrong with
very,
that?
yes, that was very Azalea Banks. I do. So
So
what
what?
now?
What now? I mean,
Yeah.
like,
Um,
listen, like, does it make sense for her? No.
no.
Do I like the energy, the the vision, the willingness to make a move. Well, yes.
Well,
I mean,
yes.
I've been waiting for my Glorb to get on the fucking block and stay on the block for weeks now.
It's true.
So
It's yet to
I was like, Queen, I'm on your side. I'm with you, Queen.
Yes. Jackie and Day also privately tell James that if they win, they would use veto on him. They don't really confirm that in their DRs, but especially Jackie, I would think would absolutely use it on James. I don't know 100% on Davon, but she seems to say it to him. Shelly is annoyed again at her position in the game of kind of being a block star and constantly just being thrown up when no one wants to change the status quo and everything, which is understandable. But she also calls Liz boring and afraid of making moves. And Liz responds and says, "Well, yes, exactly. Will you want me to make a move before the battle back happens? No, thank you." So I think both sides are valid in that regard. Um,
It's
Shelly,
also just like I just want to say too, like I just think it's frustrating for the outside players because they just truly do not realize that all of the core players are in an alliance together
yeah,
and have no like and that is the status quo, like maintaining their own power, but it's also like they're not just like friends for funsies, like they're an alliance. They've been an alliance and oh, Jeff is the only person that ever clocks that, like straight up. That wasn't told about it. So
yeah,
just throwing it out
absolutely.
there.
And no one listened to him because he was also on the outs himself.
And he's Jeff.
Yeah, and it's Jeff. Yeah.
It's Jeff.
Shelly goes as far as
Poor
to
Jeff.
threaten her jury vote to Liz, says she doesn't respect her boring gameplay and that she should be ashamed of herself. Um,
Right.
and
Right.
Hate is crazy.
and Shelly takes it another step and says that if she wins veto, she wants to use it on James, because she thinks that James is the target for the week and she wants to fuck up Liz's.
Right.
But
Forgot about
Shelly
I
is
did not forget about that.
so
Right.
Jesus Christ.
so
Right.
that's about what's going on with the
There was
outside.
also another time, and I don't know how serious this was, but there was a time when James floated, I believe, to Jackie that he should use the POV on Shelly because, like, again, he thought like he stood a better chance of staying versus her. So there was a period of time where they both wanted to use the power veto on each other.
From the other
And
nominee.
it
Yeah.
is just, if that's not indicative of this season, I don't know what is.
I know.
Literally, while
think
the
it's
while the
beautiful.
Core Power Alliance has the HOH.
Yeah.
You know what we should do? We should just make the worst move we could. I
Yeah.
really think it.
Absolutely.
And like you said, I do think there is there is grace to be given in terms of like I obviously don't know what's going on, but still, like I don't know. I'm gonna stop talking before I
Well,
say
I
something.
also think that like
It's like, I don't get it.
since like the Austin or like the John boot, pretty much everyone that's gone out of the game has been like, this season has been so boring and you all suck and you're ashamed of yourselves, or at least you should be, and all that. So I think that's just the
Literally
mindset that people are taking.
every single person. Every
And you
single
know
one.
what? Every time they do it, I'm gagged. I'm like, speak. I'm clapping. And it's like again, a lot of it's because they don't know that there's like a main core power line. But it's also like, yeah, this shit is boring. Like, I'm bored. You should say that. And then all the globes are in the DRs. Like, they just don't know that we're running this house. It's like, oh my god, shut up. Like,
And they
you guys can't
don't,
even stand each
honestly,
other.
like they
No, they
don't.
don't. Like, they're right. Like, no one knows. But it's like, also, none of you in this alliance can even stand each other half the time. Like, don't piss me off. Like,
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah. Jace and Day like hate each other. None of them
Oh,
are
speaking of Day,
very
I have a secret tidbit of information that was sent to me from the Davon account.
good.
Oh,
In
wow.
the
Oh.
Give us
and
the inside scoop.
Davon said Davon messaged me and said, "Why is it always the people who have sucked socially, strategically, and in challenges who always yell, 'Start playing'? Like if they are if they are, then they are bored, so be it. But maybe if they were better at the game, then they'd be in a position to make these moves they so desperately want others to make for them."
I mean,
Gag.
She's not really
Yeah.
wrong.
I
Not
said
wrong.
I can neither confirm nor deny anything.
Very good.
That's right.
Keeping your host.
Keeping my
That's
host
right.
integrity in lock, but she really ate them the fuck up with that.
Yep. Gagged
Um,
him.
Jackie even goes to her DR and she has a little session talking about how she was hoping that by this point in the game she would be able to have fractured the Glorbs and split them up a little bit. But with so many, like them winning so many of the competitions and them just getting like closer and closer, she feels like it's going to be a real problem to get some split of them before like the end game. And she wants to work with James, and would be great if James took a shot, or maybe if like Jason returned to the game, he could maybe do something. But she recognizes that it probably is kind of boring right now, but she's doing her best to try and set herself up, and it is not her intention to just march to the end with like all five of the Glorbs.
Yeah, and we talked about this a little bit last week too, right? Where Davon pulled her like massive big one, and Sydney didn't give her trainer of the episode or whatever it is now. But it was like whenever Devon did that, I was like, oh, whenever she literally held that alliance together by the bootstraps, whenever they voted out Jeff and was like, no, we're fucking sticking together, you idiots. And it was like, okay, you know what I mean? And now they're kind of sitting in a point where it's like, well, what are they gonna do? Because they stuck together. Now they're kind of stuck together. And like I said, Jackie was talking about it in her DR this week of just like, I don't know how to break this, which is really interesting because it's something that I don't think she expected to have to solve that problem. Because usually in Big Brother, especially like modern Big Brother, like these alliances don't usually, at least in the Discord world, maybe on the show, because the show is a bunch of anyway. But like in Discord world, normally, you know what I mean, people like cannibalize each other so fast because everyone wants to be the star. And while we do have a couple of like of those in the alliance, they haven't done that yet, which I think is crazy. I do think in yet another parallel to 13, unfortunately, this season has like all of the parallels to 13 without any of the good content. But basically I said it.
And
I don't care, I'll say it. But well,
Shots fired.
it's kind of similar to the no one wanted to take shots at Chelsea and Joshua until the battle back was over. It's kind of the same like concept of like no one wanted to really like, just like Liz said, yeah, I don't want to take a shot before the battle back happens. Why would I do that? That's stupid. Like that's just guaranteeing someone to hate you and like blowing up your alliance just for someone to get back into the game. So I think that has a lot to do with how the game has progressed, but also it is true. It's just like they've kind of held themselves together in a way that I don't think anybody really predicted. Especially because they didn't seem that close to originally either. It was just like all of the social power players were like, well, let's get in an alliance together. And then that happens like at the beginning of the game, every single game, where it's like the five people that actively talk constantly are like, let's get an alliance. And then they actually have been winning comps and like doing stuff. So I don't know. It was just it's a really interesting dynamic that we don't often see. But it is fun. My biggest like storyline to watch going forward in the season is how James and Jackie are going to crack the alliance. Because I think if somebody's going to do it, I think it's going to be James and Jackie. I don't think it's going to be Jason Audrey because that's fucking crazy and like pipe dream. Jace would have to win a competition to do that first and foremost. That isn't involved being a Disney kid. Like I don't know. I just want. I'm really interested to see what Jackie and James are gonna do because I think they can do it. I think they can figure out how to do it. But I will be interested to see who they take the shot at and how they take the shot. It's something that's like my most excited thing for this season now because I'm like, God, it just has to happen. Like waiting for it for like fucking 30 days, and it's like, anyway, that's all.
Yes. We do go into the power of veto competition. And we had touchy subjects, super famous competition, more so in Survivor, but in at least as far as Discord world goes, in Big Brother as well. And of course, we have OTEV, another absolutely iconic Big Brother competition. I felt it was only natural that we do an OTEV competition based on Into the Woods. They have to go and find the cow as white as silk, the cape as red as blood, the hair as yellow as corn, the slipper as pure as gold, obviously. So they're going out and finding stuff anyway, so it's perfect. We had the Wicked Witch, also known as Rennie from Big Brother 10, obviously. Hick can attest to that. And
Yeah, did not love any of that season.
there we go, exactly.
Did
Um,
anyone at Katie when that happened? Did Katie see that?
I'm sure she did. Um,
We need to
and
we need to get Katie on the case. We need to get her interview.
yeah,
I'll
absolutely.
drag Angie to the server.
So the whole point of the witch in at least Act 1 of Into the Woods is that the baker and the baker's wife have this curse that they need to get reversed on themselves. And um, for seasons and seasons, we've had the winner's curse of BB Rewinds, where someone who won the game, like on the identity of someone who's won the game on the real show, on their season, has never won that same season. And it was even referenced a few times earlier in this season with Steve and stuff like that. And so I
Yeah,
thought it would be cute.
we've had winner identities win, but never in the same
Not on the
season.
same season. Yeah, like Cody won
Rachel
last season,
Riley
obviously,
yeah,
but
Rachel won 12, even though she didn't win until 13. Cody won 16, even though he didn't win until whenever.
22.
So
Yeah.
sure. Um,
But yeah, so
Mike-
I thought it would be cute to like have the winner's curse be reversed. And all of the items for the competition were themed around all the different winner identities. So like Dr. Will and June and uh whatever. All the real winners, Hayden, whatever. Y'all get the point. And I went back to all the seasons and found like items that would have been significant to them. So like Maggie's was like a Chipotle bowl or something because she talked about Chipotle a lot. And June,
Ian's was a slide
aka
puzzle.
yeah, June, aka Liam, was a sunflower because of his run as sunflower and 15, and yeah, Ian's slide puzzle, stuff like that. It was basically they were asked questions about just different stats basically from the voting charts that Shinx does in Rewind's history, and they had to run out and find the right item for the right IRL winner and bring it back. And if they went through all 5 rounds and managed to find all the items, they would reverse the winner's curse. Spoiler alert, they don't make it to round 5. So the winner's curse is not reversed. So sorry, everybody. Moving forward, if you play as the real winner, you're probably not going to win. But who knows? The questions, I didn't think the questions were too incredibly difficult or tricky. But people, I guess, just didn't prepare a lot, and so they kind of went into it cold. So, the first question was regarding which of the players like never competed in an HOH competition. And the only one that was applicable to was Adam and Big Brother Rewind's 9, because the first boot of the season wasn't an HOH competition. It was the power couples, and then they just immediately got booted by whoever won that. Um, and even then, Adam and Dick are the only two that were the first boots for the season. But people didn't go in and see why Adam's HOH week was pink or whatever instead of purple or whatever, blah blah blah. So a couple people got that one wrong. And Audrey, of course. Of course, Audrey. And then Davon both eliminate themselves by Audrey brought back Jordan, which was quite the choice. Okay, I said that Dick was the only other first boot from it, so that would have been the only other answer I would have maybe deemed acceptable. But Audrey brings back Jordan, who got 5th place on 11. She and that was a long ass season, so I'm sure she competed in well over like 10 HOH competitions.
Well,
And
yeah.
then Davon brings back Drew from 5, my season, who got 7th place. So
Had
if
access to history, right? They could
Yeah.
see all of that.
Oh
That's
yeah,
crazy. That's
absolutely.
crazy.
And so, oh wait, no, just kidding. The first question was who won 2 back-to-back HOH competitions. That makes more sense.
Okay.
I know
Okay, I was
Jordan-
like, Jesus Christ.
but I phrased it specifically to be like back-to-back cycles. So it can't be like Jordan did, I guess, technically win back-to-back HOH competitions in 11, but they weren't like one cycle next cycle. And I don't even know what Day was thinking with Drew, but whatever. So those 2 get eliminated round 1. And then round 2, I believe everyone does end up answering correctly. It was a pretty easy one. It was who made it the furthest, and that was Hayden from Rewind's 12, aka Magikarp in 15, Gly. He got 3rd place. Closest anyone's ever come to winning. If he would have made it to the end, he would have won. So, and I believe based on time for that one, I don't fully remember who got eliminated based on time for that one. Let me see. I can run back and check. Jackie. Jackie was the slowest. So Jackie was eliminated. So that leaves Shelly, James, and Liz. So the HOH and the 2 nominees going into round 3. This
Was
question
Jackie throwing?
was who?
Was Jackie throwing?
I think so.
I think
Okay,
so.
because I was like, there's no way that she fucked that up if it wasn't on purpose.
Yeah.
Like, I was,
Yeah, I also think with Jackie throwing was specifically because she did tell James that she would use the veto on him, and I do think if she wins, she would feel like she had to, but they didn't want to. I don't think she wanted to expose her connection to James yet, because
It
no,
would not have made sense for her to win the POV. So
yeah,
I would
and
have
she
said it.
shouldn't. She shouldn't expose her connection to James yet, so it was the
Yeah.
correct play. But
For sure.
yeah,
I think they actually even agreed to that in their little one-on-ones. I thought I
Yes.
remember a conversation about that.
Yeah.
Yes,
that would make
yeah,
sense.
they did eventually.
Yes, and then round 3 was the bring me the item of the house guest to be evicted with the power of veto in their possession. So this of course was Jordan on season 11, at the final 5 when she used the veto on Laura instead of herself and then was evicted. When she let the intrusive thoughts win.
I hated that week so bad.
I know Hick has personal experience with that week.
Yeah.
They all got this one right as well, so it came down to time, and Shelly was the slowest. So Shelly was out, leaving Liz and James in the final round for round 4, since 2 people got eliminated the first round. And this was the question that was find the house guest that never competed in a head of household competition. Okay, and this is acceptable. So Liz brought back the correct answer in Adam, but James brought back the incorrect answer in Dick. So all is forgiven. That I think that's reasonable. But obviously, given that one of those answers is correct and one of them is incorrect, Liz does end up winning the power of veto competition, and she sweeps the week, our second sweep week of the season after Meg.
I would just like to note, by the way, that it is a shame that Shelly got out when she did, because she was actually faster than Liz in this round 4.
And did she get the correct answer too?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Shelly
Shelly was
yet
very
so
close to
far.
winning.
Yeah, so close yet so far. And pretty quickly after Liz wins the competition, I think it's pretty clear that she's not going to use it, and it's her own nominations. So I think there are very few niche circumstances in which there's a sweep week and the HOH actually does end up using the veto on one of their noms. This is not one of those cases. Liz doesn't want to have to make another nomination, and doesn't have to. So she talks about it a little bit, but not a lot. And she just goes ahead and locks nominations, ending, I think we had like a 4-week streak or something like that of the veto getting used. So rip that. We'll have to start again on that one. Let's see. I forgot about this. After Liz locks the nominations, Shelley goes to her Narnia alliance, which if
Mhm.
you have forgotten, it consists of James, Jace, Davon, and Shelley. That was made quite a bit ago, one of the earlier cycles. And Day and Jace and them are talking, and they're like, "Oh, this is gonna be so hard. Like, what are we gonna do? I hate that we're in this position." And Shelly says, "Well, you know what, guys? Let me make it a little easier for you. Just go ahead and vote me out and keep James
Mhm.
in the game." So,
Mhm. Right.
yeah. So,
Right.
right.
I mean, like.
And she even goes out into like house chat and says
Mhm.
if if um Shanks's note is confusing. He said, and she takes it to the public, putting her jury vote cred if she returns in the negatives.
Oh
So I
yeah,
guess,
I think it might have been in ceremonies, maybe.
oh
I
yeah,
feel like
this,
it was somewhere viewable by jury.
oh yeah, because she had her speech and it was basically like, this has been terrible and I've had such a bad time and I just want you guys to vote me out and send me to jury. And James did a little blurb right after, and he was basically just like, I love you guys, and I still want to be here. Thanks.
Yeah.
It's
She did
like
not
this,
want to
like.
be blindsided.
No, she did not. And yeah. But so yeah, I mean, by
So bad.
people were already voting for Shelley at that point, let alone after she
Yeah.
literally asked people to just vote for her. So it's kind of an open and shut case. Shelley was always gonna go home unless she won the veto. When, as Alex said, she was very close to doing so, but close but no cigar. And the votes all come in. There is a little bit of a discussion from like Liz's side as to whether James is a bigger threat and can actually win like competitions and has connections and stuff like that. But those very connections are with the people that are voting, and Liz is the lowest on James out of anyone in that group. So it's largely out of her hands, and the votes come in pretty quickly, and they send Shelley out at her own as her own wishes, in a unanimous 5-0 vote. And
Yeah.
Queen down, we lost one.
We're down.
I do
Rip
feel bad for Shelley.
Shelly.
She there seemed to be she had a rough start the first night. She wasn't there for a little bit of the first cycle. I mean, it felt like from that point on, she was always playing catch up with a lot of these people. And she
And
did,
she had time zone issues.
yeah, and she did some good work. I mean, in that cycle that we gave her MVP points and the top billing and stuff. She had moments of sticking up for herself and like going out on her own and making alliances and making deals, and all of that good work that she did way back when is a lot of the reason she even made it this far to begin with.
Mhm.
So I will give her credit for that, but it unfortunately just feels like she was always like kind of on the cusp, and if she had managed to win an HOH competition and seize some power herself and like finally get something going, I feel like maybe her game could have had a little bit more length and a little more like strength to it, but it just never really shaped out that way, unfortunately.
Yeah. But
But yeah, I mean
two
that was that.
mothers down.
Yeah, two mothers down. Yeah. That was by and large the cycle. It wasn't the most eventful cycle in the world. Um, but with Becky quitting and Shelly being evicted now, we are at the battle back phase of the game. So we will be
Heating
discussing,
stuff up.
yeah, the battle back in our next episode that we have, and that has a lot of potential to finally shake up the game and maybe give what a lot of us have been hoping for, and maybe shake up some power structure and have some people sweat that have been sitting very pretty the whole game. So we have that to look forward to, but for the time being now, all five of us have one MVP point to give away to somebody we deem this cycle in our own parameters went above and beyond or did the best, maybe not above and beyond, but went above and beyond everyone else, and it did their best to earn our MVP points. Would anyone like to start first? No? Okay, I'll start first. I'm gonna give my MVP point to Liz. I think she earned it with the sweep week. I do partly agree with her that it probably would have been better for, well, no, it definitely would have been better for James to go instead of Shelly. But I think it's kind of a lot of what she said. It's this weird limbo in between like the start of jury and the battle back that everyone already knows about. And it would be one thing if like all the people that are getting sent to the battle back are like these people that like maybe got betrayed or got pissed and like had a real like stake in the game. But like the people that are in battle back are now like Jeff and Jason and like Becky, who just quit and isn't even going to be in the battle back. So um, it would stick out even more to make this big flashy move that she would do. And I think even more so for Liz's game in particular, she is this person that's kind of riding the middle of this split between like Day and Jackie on one side and Meg and Jace on the other. And I think she would be the person that would benefit she's like the last person in that group that should be making that move to take out somebody in that. So I fully respect um her, you can call it boring, but her writing it out and at least through the battle back. And I think Shelly's a good person for her to take out at this point in the game. So that combined with she just has her fun little like Liz on top moments and coming in and out and has been a like genuinely like a lovely person to host and has been super fun across the season. So on a cycle where maybe not a lot of shifting gameplay or really flashy things happened, I'm more than happy to give Liz an MVP point for sweeping the week and doing what's best for her game. So she gets my point. Who's next?
I'll go next. I'm
Okay.
also giving it to Liz, begrudgingly. I'm not even gonna add anything. Everything I said, or everything I'm reasoning to give it to Liz, Jackson has said. But it was a good HOH. Especially for Liz of all people, who's pretty chaotic and usually doesn't know what's going on, or is drunk, or is always confused about the state of the game. So I respected that not only did she win in a sweep week, so she had total control over the whole week, but she made the right move and everyone was on her side. No one was mad at her. I mean, even Jackie, who's like James is her secret number one, like understood the logic, like wasn't upset with Liz about it, just was like, we just need to make sure that James doesn't go home. So yeah, it was a good week, I guess.
Period.
All
Alex,
right.
Graham,
I
Hick.
was I was gonna say I'll go next because I am also giving mine to Liz. One thing I do want to kind of add on because basically, yeah, copy paste, etc. This week, the boring move, but she's part of the majority, so status quo is best for her game, etc. But like, I think that almost out of everyone in the Glorb Lords, she's really benefited the most because that is what kept her safe during her like week of inactivity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like she's been really able to kind of reintegrate herself in the game in a way I don't think she would have been able to without this kind of security behind her.
Yeah.
And I kind of just like tip my hat to that as far as, yes, use your alliance members.
Yeah,
yeah.
up next. I'm also going Liz. It's super boring, but I mean, it is what it is in a week like this. It's when she sweeps and gets out her target to guarantee, you know what I mean? She gets into through the battle back, like what can you do? I do think that is an interesting point that Alex was just making of I think Liz does benefit the most from Glorbs, and I think that her being able to kind of slip under the radar has been good for her to get this far to a point where she's shielded by that alliance. And now when people start taking shots at the Glorbs, they're not going to be taking shots at Liz. They'll be taking shots at Meg or Jace or Davon or Jackie. Like literally,
Yep.
I would take a shot at all four of those people before I even touched Liz.
Yep.
So I think she's actually really well positioned, and she also is well positioned to play like the middle of that whenever the shots do get taken, Liz is well positioned to play the middle of the two sides that inevitably like fracture from that. So
Yep.
that's
sure.
my
I think she's in a great middle spot, and I mean, being in the middle spot, literally in between two duos of the Power Alliance, and but still not like the biggest threat, or not even like the third biggest threat, pretty much out of all of them. I think is a great spot to be in going into this mid game, end game section.
And I think my thing's also obvious. I'm gonna give it to Liz. I think it was a perfect sweep. Everything went to plan, and not really much went out of control. Like she even won the veto. I think if she lost the veto and had to renom someone, she would have been in a tough spot, and then maybe I would have given my point to someone else. But with the clean sweep, I think it's kind of obvious that she needs this, and this is her week.
Period. Liz on top.
Yep.
Liz on
Liz on
top.
top.
All
It's
right.
also good for her because she's proven that she has some prowess in competitions for later on in the end game too, which is nice for her.
And
So
they weren't like easy competitions by all means. Like
No.
OTEV
No,
is
they're not.
hard, and touchy subjects is very hard to like have a grasp on things, especially it seems with like this cast. So
Yeah, she fucking ate them up.
yeah, she did
Good
great.
week for Liz.
did.
Liz on top.
Liz on top. Liz on top.
Liz on top.
All right, Sydney, do you want to go ahead and give the top billing of the week as well while we're at it?
Do I have to? Do I
Yes.
have to give it to someone?
Yes, you do. It is required for the graphics.
Why can't I not give it to anybody? It's called Sydney's top billing. If there's no one on top,
We just said a few times there's quite possibly someone that's on top.
like in terms of feminism.
Oh, okay. Well,
Okay, fine. Well,
Gotcha,
I
gotcha,
have
gotcha.
to. Since I have to, I'll obviously give it to Liz. Literally, no one else did anything this week to deserve it. The only real runner-up would have like maybe been James, because like he was really never in any danger of leaving, and like he pretty much had the other nominee like gunning to save him if she could win a POV, which is like that's
Yeah.
great, I guess.
yeah.
But the fact that he was on the block and like I'm not gonna give it to him. So I'll give it to Liz. Good for you, Queen. This is not against Liz. I'm a Liz lover. Liz on top. For
No,
real.
yeah, Liz is great.
No, yeah, Liz is such a fun character. This week was really boring and no
Yeah.
one did anything fun or cool or interesting for me. So usually I try to give it to someone who kind of like did something like, oh, like that was great. And it was kind of like, Liz had a good HOH, but it was like nothing that really stuck out to me. But
Yeah, that's
I
fair.
am a feminist at the end of the day, so I won't deny a woman her award.
Well, yes.
Well, yes.
Liz is indeed on top, everybody. So the
Mhm.
only thing we have left to do is our awards for the week. Last week, in case you need a reminder, it was the best double eviction in Rewind's history, since we had our double eviction last cycle with Jeff and Jason. Quick rundown of what our nominees were. We had Kaser screwdriving Sarah right out of the game in Rewind's 6. We have The World Weeping for Elizabeth Olsen in All Stars. We have Dustin Has a Need in 8. We have The House Holding Hands and Singing Kumbaya as they backdoor Shima in 11. We have Shelly's Trio Alliance being torn to shreds right in front of her eyes in 13.
Yeah.
In 15, we have Aaron, Waddle-Dee, Kitana, Sombra, Shinx, and Tiny Kong hosting a fight club in between games of Hangman.
Mhm.
And then, of course, for this season, Rewind 17, we have Beast Mode Twink Death.
Mhm.
This was a very close vote. Very, very close. The closest one
So
we've
many
had
good
so far.
nominations.
I know there were good nominations, but the winner that just barely scraped it out was indeed from Rewind's 15, the Power of Veto Fight Club, in between games of Hangman, with every single participant of the veto competition. So
My
congrats.
favorite part
so
is that I
good.
took place in that veto competition, but I'm not named as one of the people in the fight club. So that means that someone else was just in there, like scrapping.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, they absolutely were. It was
Was
pretty
it
much
it? I
everybody.
forget who was like just not involved, but just was like fighting anyway. It was
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
That sounds very Sunflower.
Sunflower was dead at that point. That was right after
That was
Sunflower got
good.
evicted. So
What am I? Who was that then?
Um, I think it
It
was
was mostly
Katana,
Aaron and Tiny Kong.
Yeah, and then Katana wasn't even playing, and then
but
just
was still yelling at
I think
people.
it was
Just
just
jumping
fighting
in.
everyone.
Yeah.
It was great.
Katana completely ruined her position.
For no reason. Yeah, like
Neutrality.
She didn't
she
want to
just hated
pretend.
Fuck
Tiny
you
Kong
guys.
so much.
Yeah, she didn't want to
Hazel just
pretend to be
had
nice
these bitches
anymore.
mad.
And I
She
get
had
that.
to get it out, and
I've been
I
there.
respect it.
No, I've tanked my
Right,
game and gone
like-
to rocks before because I was sick of working with the people that I had to work with. So I get it.
I mean,
Um,
and I love Hazel, but yeah, Hazel, she brings it out in people.
she
For real.
brings out the best and the worst in people.
That's
Absolutely.
my queen, though. I'll never say a word against her. Like, that's my queen.
No, absolutely not. But yes, for this cycle, we thought that it would be fun, just given kind of the unprecedented nature of the Glorblords really kind of running this whole season so far, and we don't really see that a lot in Rewind's history. We'll have these big alliances and stuff like that, but usually they last for maybe a few weeks and then they kind of fall apart. But this one seems to have a lot of sticking power. So we've decided to go with the most memorable alliance in Rewind's history for this week.
Is it
So
memorable or dominant? Or
we were
both?
gonna do dominant, and then just what we just discussed, that a lot of the alliances don't really hold together for very long, where they turn on each other. So we're going with memorable instead, to give us some more options. So obviously, I will be putting the Glorb Lords from Big Brother Rewind 17 on the ballot. And I would also like to throw in from last season from Big Brother Rewind 16, the shit show of an alliance that was Shield. Derek, DaCosta, Zach, Nicole, Brittany. Um,
I forgot that they took the letters from different parts of their
wasn't
name.
wasn't the
That
first letters
weren't
of their
the
names.
beginning to make
Cody,
their
yes.
alliance name.
Yeah, they took the D from, and they didn't even take the D from Derek. They took the D from Cody. Um, and yeah, I love those psychos so much.
Fucking hate them.
They were such a big reason as to why last season was so much fun, and
Yes.
all of them, I will always remember the dialogue of like multiple people saying that everyone in that alliance except for Derek are like selfish as hell, and then Derek gets
Yes.
himself out, and then they flip on Zach, and then it like completely splinters with Nicole and Brittany on one side, and people on the other side. It was such a mess. They were so great. I love them. So I will be
They
nominating
cannibalize on
Shield.
themselves.
Yeah, I'll be nominating Shield from last season as well. So whoever wants to throw in a couple nominees are more than welcome to now.
Okay, I'm gonna go because I have two for myself, and I'm also doing one on behalf of Shane slash myself. So, but I'll go through them very quickly. One, two of them are from BBR. What was second chances?
15.
15. I get the numbers mixed up. There are two from BBR 15, iconic season. One is the Flips, which was made by Bandana Wallaby, and it was him and Lara Croft and I can't remember another person that was in the middle.
Jinx.
Shane.
Oh,
Jinx.
oh, Shanks, yeah. Sorry, I'm just focused on Bandana Wallaby.
The breadsticks, you mean?
Right. So he makes this alliance and he's like, oh, guys, like us three, we're the swing votes right now for this huge vote. Like, what should we do? And then Shinx and Aaron or Lara Croft are like, I think I want to keep this person. And he's like, no, we're not. I don't want to keep that person. I want to keep someone else. So we're going to do that. We're going to vote together. And they're like, oh, well, why did you make this alliance then to talk about it? He's like, I want to make sure we were on the same page. I'm not voting the other person out. I'm voting this person out. And they were like, okay. And it was the funniest fucking thing on the fucking planet. I was so obsessed. Especially because Bandana Wallaby was always just like on some delusional bullshit, and it was always just so funny to watch. So that was one. Iconic to me. And then two was of course the salads. Which I was just telling Jackson. One of the funniest moments ever was when Jackson was in that alliance, which was Aaron, Katana, who was in it? Aaron, Katana,
Sunflower.
Aaron,
Sunflower,
Katana, Sunflower. They added Waddle Dee
Bandana
eventually,
Waddle
but
Dee.
Zelda. Yeah.
Zelda.
Oh yeah, Zelda. Yeah, okay. So that it was literally the other side of the house to the pastas who had already been named I'm pasta for weeks ago. So Jackson's like, we need to convince them to name it salads to have like narrative like opposition.
For the Olive Garden theming.
Yeah. So he's having me a line shot like with the salads. Like, oh god, I can really eat a salad right now. Actually, that's crazy. So you guys should name this the salads. Have you ever thought about that? If someone was like, "Are you calling us fat?"
And then we met in the middle
So
and they named themselves the Idge Bowl Salads, and it was great.
Yeah, they didn't like because Jackson said that and they just named it.
And then
Salad.
he
He's like,
just
okay,
named
the salads
it
now. He
salads.
just named it, and then they were like, we don't like this name. Like, we're not naming it this. And then he just kept pushing it, and then yeah, they were the Idge Bowl Salads. That was one of the funniest things that I ever witnessed, and I really appreciated that. And also just the events themselves, they were so messy. Like they were just like so uncoordinated. They had like, no strategic power. Like even when they won competitions, they just absolutely ruined the weeks and like never held on to power. Were super impulsive. Like they were such a fucking hot mess, and yet they still managed to like keep it up for at least a few weeks. Like they were in opposition, just like a mess. And even though I wasn't even rooting for them, I found them so entertaining and so funny. So
I was a diehard salad stan.
You were. I was a pasta stan because all of my rootable figures were in the pastas, but I enjoyed watching the salad just be a total hot mess. So I decided to bring them up because I love them so much. Excellent. And then for Shanks / also me for BBR6, the mac and cheese bites. So that was Shanks, Luke, and Jeevan, and the fourth who Bronson over who shall not be named.
No, and so, April and Maggie were also
April and Maggie, whatever. Okay, April and Maggie flops are in there too. They're not the main characters here. So it was essentially the first alliance that was like, and they really dominated for weeks in the beginning. Like they were a cohesive unit, and they were essentially working against me as Rachel, James, Holly, and Yvette, like the other side that was kind of taking longer to form. But they were also a hot mess. Like Ashlea fucked up her HOH and then got back forward the next week against the mac and cheese bites, what they wanted. They kind of cannibalized because Janelle and Queso were obviously a duo. And after Ashlea went out, Sarah was alone. April was just useless. Maggie was just a mess. Like, like they were a mess, but I would say they were definitely a power. Like they were a dominant alliance, and it was essentially just them and the other side of the house, my side of the house, taking shots at each other every week until we just dwindled each other's numbers down. Very similar to the actual BB6 season, which was fun. So yeah, that is, you know.
I remember from that season because they had an alliance of just the four of Sarah, Ashlea, Kaser, and Janelle, and then they added Maggie and April to it after they realized like the secret duos and everything. And I remember after Maggie got evicted the second time in the double, I said I forgot that April was in that alliance. And it was like my first season of hosting. And I was like, do you guys want to keep this one or do you just want to talk in this other, like the four that you have? And April was like, and I think Kaser was like, we'll just talk on this one. Just stuff like that.
Just like it didn't even matter though. April
they did not give a fuck.
No.
They didn't give a fuck.
April was barely even there. Like she literally at that point was just being kept around as like a pawn star. Like she did not win anything. She was
and then the next week Shanks just flipped it and got her taken out anyways. So
exactly. So it's fine.
Any other nominees from the gallery?
Yeah, I will go. My nominee is from season 8. It was an alliance I was a part of. It was a trio alliance that ran the jury phase, called the Swiffer Wet Jets.
Great name.
Spelled like Taylor Swift.
Yeah, kind of named after false Taylor Swift hood.
That's true.
But then also there's this like wet Kermit gif of Kermit getting absolutely soaked by water. And so we called ourselves the Swiffer Wet Jets. and
Of
we were
course.
part of a larger alliance called like the Sexy Sour Seven or something. That it was because it was me and Jamaica, Dustin, Danielle, and then it was Carol and Joe.
Mhm.
And originally it was 7 of us because Jessica was also in it because she won HOH week 1 and then quit second week.
I got
And so then the Sexy Sour 7 became the Sexy Sour 6.
right.
And Joe and Carol flipped on us and got out Jamaica that at the specific moment. And so then we had our Swiffer Wet Jet trio of me, Dustin, and Danielle as the only people left from our original alliance. Because I mean, that alliance ran the pre-jury, and then this alliance ran the jury. And we won every single HOH for the rest of the game. From final 8 on, we swapped HOHs, and it was horribly boring for the spectators. Probably the first couple of weeks were great because they were like, yes, flip the power back, because we had gotten flipped on, so they were really excited that we were like winning HOH. And then we just kept winning HOH. And yeah, Danielle and I swapped HOHs through final 5, and then Dustin won final 4, and then did so anyway, it was a very dominant alliance, and it was the domineering alliance really of the season. Yeah, it was my little Swiffer Wet Jet buddies. Shout out to Danielle. And
I'm not that bald-headed bitch.
you didn't have to go there, and you know what I mean. And we vibe, so love the Swiffer Wet Jets. And Alex, what are you going to talk about?
I was probably gonna talk about rocks.
Okay, so I'll do one more. I'll do one
Okay.
more. It's also for my season. Big Brother Rewinds 13. We have these sexy MILFs surfing and shit.
Who named it that?
Oh my god!
Who
I
was
forgot
responsible
about
for that, by the way? I can't remember.
I don't remember. But it
Jail.
was me and Shelly. Me as Amber, Shelly as Alex is in the room, is in the chat with us,
Yes, yes.
and Adam, and then Kaser once again, and Angie from Hick's original season. And we had our little moment. We often worked against each other. Most of the time we were working against each other like underminedly throughout the entire beginning of the season, but we were out of the top 7, we had 5 of us in the top 7, and one of them,
Period.
you know what I mean? So it was like, it was a big alliance. It was it was basically that what we literally talked about, the glorbs of like all the social active people getting in an alliance together, being like, hey, we should do this, and like literally trying to kill each other. But you know what I mean? It was fun. It was a fun time, and like I said, and we made 5 of the top 7, where all of us were in the top 7. So it was pretty good, solid, sexy milfs surfing and shit. So
Right.
I think that was Kaser. That sounds like
I was
a
gonna
loop.
say that really does sound like a loop
I
thing.
think
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds right.
yeah.
Okay, I guess I can go next since I just kind of gave away who my alliance I'm going to talk about is. In season 15, this is the one that basically terrorized Shinx in the end game. I think would be an accurate description of that. It is an alliance that consisted of Isabel, which is me, Sombra, which is Blaze, Pikmin, which is Robin, and then did I say Waddle Dee?
You did that?
Okay, I did not say
No.
Waddle Dee. So it is also Waddle Dee, which is why can't I remember Maine's name?
Aqua.
Aqua, thank you. I'm like, what's the water one? So sorry. Anyway, but yeah, so basically it was sort of the alliance that the reason it kind of ate a lot was because it had like people in different corners of the house in this like very divided scenario of like, you know, the pastas versus like the olive, in basically the Olive Garden wars. um while the sides were taking each other out, like our main goal was to kind of keep each other safe and to kind of get into that end game scenario, because it was basically the people who I felt the best with after that like doom death that we talk about every single time, so we won't get into that.
Literally every fucking podcast we bring Doomslayer up. It's never gonna end.
Nope.
R.I.P. Matt.
Taken from us too soon.
Yeah.
Exactly. So but
seasons
yeah,
later.
no, it was people like who I felt, I felt like we all felt a little bit outside of the power structure at the time. And so we kind of created our own new power structure. And we kind of ate up and
Which is so fucking crazy because you were the power structure the entire season. It was just you.
Yeah, but like
No,
Shinx and Tiny were
because
winning
Pasta
everything.
started from what I knew was a trio of Doom, Tiny, and Clem. So I always felt outside of that.
Yeah.
I knew about that trio before the whole thing started. So I was like, well, those aren't my like those weren't the people who I felt closest with at the start. You know what I mean? So, but anyway, yeah. So the end game was kind of funny when like Shinx found out. Basically, I think he found out when it was like final 6. So it was basically us and then him. And Sombra leaked to him, and so I knew he found out when he came into my DMs like rock, and I'm like, who's there? Like, and he was just basically like, I forget exactly how he did it, but through some sort of like convoluted knock joke, I found out that he knew about the rocks, and then it was basically just us being like, yeah, we do want to murder you, like to his face, and him just like winning veto after veto after veto.
Yeah.
Kind of an iconic endgame run. If I do say so myself.
I agree. No, I agree. All right, Hick, do you have any nominees you want to put in there?
I have one. It does come from my original season. It's the after party
Yeah.
from Big Brother 10. So it consisted of me, April, Angie, and Keisha. I believe it was made like one of the first weeks because me and April and Angie all were like the social players, it seemed as, and Keisha was just the head of household, so we felt like we needed to get like include her.
Yeah.
I don't know how the name came up. I think Keisha was just like, let's just name this the after party because she just had that name in her head. I was like, okay, none of us really cared because we are all like indecisive about the name, but we basically kind of ran the whole pre-jury until I got really bored and I put Keisha up because again, I wasn't that close to her because I just included her just because she was the HOH the first week.
Yeah.
But I was just like, Keisha's got to go. So it was working really well until I just ruined it for all of us. But Angie and April were kind of my people, like going forward in the game. So I definitely trusted them. But I think it was a good alliance if I just kept it going. But again, lines of the season, best alliance ever.
No, absolutely. It was a great alliance. And I mean, you and Angie and April ended up being 3 of the final 5. So
Exactly. Yeah. We were doing good.
Yeah, that's a great little lineup of all these alliances that we have. I think it's a good representation of it. So that's about all she wrote for this episode. Thank you so much, Hick, for joining us. You're such a pleasure.
Thank you again for having me.
Yes,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome back anytime. Thank you, Sydney. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Graham. We'll see you guys same time, same place. Bye.
Bye.